Hi, this is Carly Opson, your instructor for SERP 503 Special Services in the Schools. And we've been talking about Section 504. And in this video, I want to briefly go over a case study with you as an example of a child who might qualify and some of the paperwork that might be done to demonstrate qualification for Section 504. So this is the case of James Gray, a 10th grader, and James was in a horrible car accident in September. He was hospitalized for 2 months, and following that accident, he underwent surgeries to repair compound fractures in his right leg and right wrist and to remove one of his kidneys. It sounds pretty horrible and really debilitating. And these appointments that he'll have to go to recover from this are going to cause him to miss school at times. Even after he gets his casts removed, he's going to be in physical therapy for quite a while. In medical reports, the doctors and therapists say it will take him at least 9 months to recover the full use of his right hand and wrist. And James will be using a wheelchair for at least 6 months. So a couple things to notice here. First of all, it appears that James definitely does suffer from a physiological impairment that is probably, we're going to see in a moment, going to cause him to be limited in one or more major life activities. And it's going to take place over at least more than 6 months, right? So incidents that are going to be of duration shorter than 6 months is less likely that a school will create a 504 for a student. They still could. It would be the nice thing to do, but it's not required. For things that are going to take 6 months or longer, or that will be an impairment for 6 months or longer, definitely there needs to be something done. Again, in this case, James is getting tired easily, and he should be able to remain healthy with one kidney as long as he follows nutritional guidelines and takes his medications. Another thing to notice here is that he has never been referred for special education services. So this is not about a special education referral for a kid who's failing school. It is for a kid who, prior to his accident, was passing all his classes and had been considered proficient in state assessments. He did start receiving, he'd been in the hospital for a while, and he did start receiving hospital homebound services, and he's still approximately a month behind his peers in all his subjects. I've been a homebound teacher before. That's going to happen. So he's still starting to fail his courses, and it looks like it's going to be a problem for him. And so, as you can see in that last highlighted section, there is a 504 school coordinator, and they call a meeting and they bring in James, geometry teacher, who is one of the people who would know about James, right? And about the work that needs to be done. Brings in a school psychologist who would be able to look at any of the assessments that have been done. They bring in the principal and James' mother, and they bring in James. Mom brings medical records, and the principal brings James' educational records to be looked at by the entire group. Okay. Another thing to notice about this is how very specific this is to the student, and this is what happens, right? These are not one-size-fits-all cases of we'll just take the same 504 plan and put it on another kid. They're all very specific to what a student might need, right? So we can already see in this case, what might James need? Going to need some help with writing. He might need some assistive devices to help him get his thoughts down on paper. He might need, since he's in a wheelchair, he might need extra time to get from one class to another and not be considered late. He might be allowed to leave class early to get to the next class. He might have somebody appointed to come help him out. These all seem like simple things to just be done, but in a 504 plan, they're considered legal accommodations and they're written down in the plan to make sure that they actually happen, and somebody's going to be responsible for them and make sure they happen. Well, let's switch over to the notion of eligibility. So this group gets together to talk about James, um, and they're probably going to have some kind of piece of paper like this one. So I also want to say that good forms are really important in school settings or any environments. A good form for 504 will have the information on it you need for qualifying the student. This isn't the plan form, this is just eligibility. Okay, so it'll have good information on there to make sure that we've considered who this qualification meeting is for, who is at the meeting. You can see that's listed up here. The mom is there, and we could list the other people and the information that they add to the meeting. And it's important that there be checks in each of those boxes. That's why we bring the school psychologist and the geometry teacher and the 504 coordinator and the principal, right? There should be a place that shows what evaluations were done and what information is being considered. And you can see that's listed also, sources of evaluation information. And then we get down to the nitty-gritty of a good form like this should have a place to consider the very specific issues of qualification for 504. So is there a mental or physical impairment? And that's number one there. And you specify what it is. And does it limit one or more major life activities? And you can see they've listed some there, and they give you space to write one in. In this case, for James, we're probably going to be, well, what do you think we'll put in there? We probably want to include walking, maybe concentrating. We don't know if he's had a concussion. We check that out. And under alternative of equivalent scope and importance, I might include writing also. And then there's also the consideration under updated 504 guidelines that it has to, whatever is happening has to substantially limit the students. So this team has to sit together and decide that these major life activities are substantially limited, right? And they make that consideration, as you can see, it's listed on here, based on how a regular student would perform in those life activities. It's without mitigating equipment like the wheelchair or anything. Okay. For impairments that are episodic or in remission, like cancer or some other condition that comes and goes, it's considered when the condition is there, not when it's in remission. Okay? And then there should be a place on the form to say, yes, student qualifies, no, student does not qualify. Okay? I say all these things to you because there's not just one form. This isn't like a federal form. There aren't federal forms for this. The feds get out of the way. They leave it to the states. States generally leave it to districts, and districts often leave it to individual schools to come up with their own materials. That's why it's really important to get to your 504 coordinator if there's a 504 going on, and to find out what the paperwork is like, and you can have them walk you through it before a meeting. Best thing to do. So we've looked at the case, we've looked at the qualifications. Same thing's going to happen with the plan. We're not going to look at individual plans right now because they are very specific for individuals. We've talked about what might be included in a plan for James, but the format for a plan in every state, every district, and a lot of times every single school will be different. I hope that gives you more information, and I will see you again online.